The phrase literally describes someone standing on tiptoe and craning their neck, a physical image of straining to see or to be seen. Metaphorically, it means to wait with eager, sometimes anxious expectation, to anxiously strain toward a hoped-for favor, recognition, or outcome. It often carries a hint of futility or self-abasement, the posture of waiting for something to be granted by another rather than taking action oneself. Story on tiptoe. When Lena started at Halo and Finch, Lena Halo and Finch. She believed the future would arrive like an elevator, a ding. The doors open. And there it was, promotion, praise, permission. She answered emails at midnight, learned people's coffee orders so she could flatter them accidentally, and curated her LinkedIn feed to look like proof of constant upward motion. LinkedIn. She watched the corner office like a child watches a bakery window, breath fogging the glass. Her posture followed. She literally found herself standing a little taller in meetings, leaning forward to catch the approving nod, an ear tuned to the boss's laugh. She was on tiptoe emotionally too, ready to spring when recognition fell, ready to apologize if her idea wasn't liked, ready to minimize her own needs so she might be chosen. Friends teased that she had the posture of someone perpetually waiting for a train that never quite arrived. The promotion came. Eventually, not to Lena. Instead, it went to Mateo, who had the same hours but the louder voice. Lena told herself it was experience. She told herself loyalty would be noticed later. She congratulated him and felt the old pose settle deeper, more careful words, fewer risks, more waiting. Outside the office, the world ran different clocks. On a November morning, Lena found herself standing in line at a small bakery on her way to work, still thinking about the job that had not come. She watched an older woman in front of her, hands stained with flour, voice calm, smiling at the barista like they were participants in a small, mutual ritual. The woman spoke to everyone as if sharing a secret. When the woman reached the counter, the barista handed her a loaf without charge. Lena saw the exchange, not a reward for waiting, but a response to something else, consistent presence, an open face, a propensity to give a little. That evening, Lena sat on her fire escape with a half-read philosophy book and a coffee gone cold. She realized that her life had become a sequence of small expectancies, like bookmarking a page and never finishing the chapter because she was waiting for the right time or the right credential. She had cataloged herself in the margins, eager, good, patient. She realized she had been practicing a posture not of readiness, but of deferment. She had been straining for an external verdict. The next week, she tried something small and startling. In a team meeting, she stopped shrinking when a senior person interrupted. Instead of waiting for permission to finish, she let a sentence finish itself out of her mouth, not loud, not abrasive, just complete. When someone asked a question, she volunteered a take that she had rehearsed only in the privacy of her head. And it was received with a thoughtful silence rather than immediate dismissal. She also began to notice the language she used about waiting. The phrases were soft and habitual. I'm just hoping, I'll wait, maybe later. She replaced them with verbs that had a directness she had been avoiding. I'm going to try, I'll start, let's test. The world did not immediately transform. The corner office did not collapse in a congratulatory parade. But something internal shifted. Her shoulders lowered because she stopped being a body built to receive something from above. She became a body oriented toward contribution. Change, she discovered, does not always arrive as triumph. Sometimes it arrives as permission to be bored with waiting. Lena started a small after-work workshop on user experience in a community center, an experiment she'd tabled for years. On the second week, a junior developer at her company, someone faded into the background during meetings, attended. He came alive in front of the whiteboard. They began to co-design a prototype over evenings and weekend notes in a shared Google Doc. Google. That prototype grew teeth because it no longer waited for blessing. They tested it with people who would actually use it, iterated, and discovered realities that corporate plans had never considered. They presented their working demo at a volunteer pitch night, not seeking the CEO's nod, but seeking honest users. The room clapped not for the posture of someone waiting to be picked, but for the small, rough thing they had built. When the company announced a new role, one that sounded suspiciously like what Lena had been doing on nights and weekends, she did not stand on tiptoe. She applied. Yes, but she also sent a short note to her manager describing the user tests, the prototype metrics, and the community feedback. The application was not an extended plea. It was a ledger of what she and her team had made. She still felt the old reflex sometimes, the urge to watch, to hang for favor. It never vanished entirely. Habits live in the body. But she learned to recognize the moment when longing became self-effacement. She would catch herself craning for approval and instead ask, what can I make now? Who can I ask honestly? What small thing will I test today? The final turn was humbler than she expected. The company created the role, and it was split between two people. Lena took one half. Matteo took the visible counterpart. Matteo. The board called it compromise. Lena called it a platform. With her portion, she had authority to pilot projects. With it, she also had responsibility to show results. That responsibility, she realized, felt better than expectation. Months later, Lena found herself at the bakery again. But this time she approached the counter with a different face. She exchanged a few words with the barista about the weather and the peculiarities of sourdough. A young person in line pointed at a pastry and hesitated. Lena recommended one with the same warmth the older woman had once shown. No free loaf arrived, but a small conversation did. Later, walking to the office, Lena noticed she was not standing on tiptoe. She was simply upright, balanced. The future, she had learned, was not a single door to be admitted through. It was a series of thresholds, each crossed more easily if you were already moving. Philosophically, Lena's posture change was nearly invisible to others. But to her it was decisive. She had swapped a life of hoping for a life of making. And in that exchange, she reclaimed agency. Waiting with eager expectation is sometimes necessary. Hope softens the edges of impossible tasks, but waiting as a stance can hollow you out. There is dignity in desire. There is greater dignity, too, in the quiet, stubborn work that answers desire with creation. The story didn't end in fireworks or a final verdict. It continued in smaller proofs, a prototype that became a product feature, a workshop that grew a community, a colleague who found a voice. Lena still felt hope. It had not been discredited, but it stopped being the only tool in her hands. The world supplied neither constant confirmation nor constant denial. The important part was that Lena learned to stand with her own feet on solid ground, ready to walk. Tiptoe, stand, or move on the toes to appear taller or avoid making noise. She stood on tiptoe at the bakery window to see the pastries on the top shelf. Crane, to stretch the neck to see something more clearly. He craned his neck to catch the speaker's final sentence. Anxious, feeling worried or eager about an uncertain outcome. She felt anxious before the promotion announcement. Expectation, a belief that something will happen or be given. Their expectation that recognition would arrive grew with each polite nod. Deferment, the act of delaying or postponing an action or decision. Her deferment of the project meant the prototype never left her laptop. Posture, the way someone holds their body. Figuratively, an attitude or stance. His confident posture in meetings changed how colleagues listened. Recognition, acknowledgement, or praise for achievement or effort. She sought recognition for the prototype she and her team built. Prototype, an early model of a product used to test ideas and gather feedback. They built a prototype and tested it with real users. Iterate, to repeat a process, improving it each time based on feedback. They iterated on the design after every user test. Ledger, a record or list of facts. Actions, or accounts. She sent a concise ledger of user tests and results to her manager. Agency, the capacity to act independently and make one's own choices. By starting the workshop, she reclaimed a sense of agency. Compromise, an agreement in which each side makes concessions. The new role was a compromise split between two people. Presence, the state of being attentive and engaged in a situation. His quiet presence at the whiteboard drew people into the discussion. Self-effacement, the tendency to downplay oneself or avoid attention. Her self-effacement made it harder for others to notice her work. Platform, a position or opportunity that enables action or influence. The half role she received became a platform to pilot new projects.